Good morning, good morning, good morning. How are you this morning? Hope you are well and things are awesome in your world. And sorry that I'm a day late with this week, but you know what? I had a networking meeting in Newcastle yesterday and used that time to go and see my lovely mum up in Northumberland instead of doing a live for you guys. But I always do what I set out to do, so I'm here today. So I hope that you are okay and that you are ready to talk about imposter syndrome. So that's what I'm going to be covering today, imposter syndrome and what to do when it shows up. And the reason that I've put this in and on the agenda to do a live on is that it's occurring so often in the ladies that I work with. So for those of you on other platforms who may not see me as often, I am Mandy Nicholson, as the branding says, and I am the Creative Genius Consultant. I'm an artist, I'm an author, I'm a creative retreat owner here in Scotland, and I help creative women to launch, to grow, and to scale their businesses, and to make more money, and to believe in themselves. I think that's probably the most important factor. So let's talk about imposter syndrome. What is imposter syndrome? It shows up. It's a feeling of inadequacy that shows up, a feeling of self-doubt or insecurity, and it can prevent you from achieving your goals in your business. And in general, there are 5 types of imposter syndrome. Okay, so I want to talk you through those 5 types of imposter syndrome today, and explain and explore, I suppose, why it has such a massive impact on us, particularly as creatives. Okay, so that's kind of the journey I want to take you on this live today. So the first step to overcoming imposter syndrome is to recognize its characteristics, okay, to know what to look for. So if you ever had that really dark, pervasive feeling of being a fraud, despite evidence of your competence and how good you are, people who experience imposter syndrome often feel like they're not worthy of the accolades or the rewards, or even just being paid the right amount of money for the work that you sell. It can stem from so many different factors and it can affect everybody. It's often seen as something that affects high performers. However, it can affect anybody at any time, at any level in society. It is, like many other things, not exclusive to any particular group of people. So some of the common characteristics that you see in imposter syndrome are self-doubt, sabotaging your own success. Have you done that? If any of these resonate with you, let me know. Undervaluing your contributions to society. It can be low self-esteem, fear of failure, overworking. So thinking that you've got to constantly work, not accepting any recognition or praise for the things that you do, and comparing yourself to others. These are the characteristics that are common to imposter syndrome. And there are 5 types of imposter syndrome. So I want to cover these off and cover the characteristics of each of these types, and then give you some tips on how to recognize and manage that going forward. So number 1 is the perfectionist. And a load of you are going to go, yes, that's me. And the perfectionist really needs to do things properly, to meet really exceedingly high standards that may be impossible to achieve. So imposter syndrome fuels perfectionism, striving for flawlessness, the perfect painting, throwing it in. Van Gogh was common for this. Van Gogh was known to destroy and throw away his work because it didn't meet his exacting standards. He threw away so much work in his time as an artist, which is why there was limited work. So perfectionism actually reduces your productivity when you've got to meet your exacting standards, you're not productive because you're working to a standard that potentially is not realistic for you to achieve in your business. So while setting high standards is a good thing, I often say, and you'll hear me say it a lot, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I like to work to high standards. But I also think 80% is good enough. If you get to 80% of a high standard, you're still doing well and probably better than most people. So although setting high standards can motivate us to achieve our goals, if you are fixated on it, it can lead to negative consequences. So the perfectionist often finds that this relentless pursuit of perfectionism and flawlessness, it's resulting in excessive self-criticism, anxiety, burnout, and overwhelm. And then following that, low self-esteem. So signs that you may be the perfectionist include the following. Morning, Lisa. Include the following. Micromanaging. Do you micromanage everything? Do you have to know how everything goes? Not delegating tasks. So it happens better if I do it. I'll do it myself because then it'll get done. Have you ever said those things? Obsessing over the little details. Struggling with decision making because of this high standard. Unrealistic expectations because of your high standards. You think you can do this when in reality, you don't need to do this. And an incredibly high fear of failure or making mistakes. So these are the characteristics, morning Emma, of the perfectionist. So what do you do if you're the perfectionist and these things show up? So overcoming perfectionism is a process, and it requires self-awareness, self-compassion, and a willingness to embrace imperfection. Yeah, by setting realistic goals and not goals that are really up here, and expectations, and practicing self-care, prioritizing progress over perfection, which I always say is the most important thing, progress over perfection. These are the things that are going to help you to manage if you are the perfectionist. So here are some ways that you can actually do that. So notice, write it down, journal, notice your perfectionist thoughts. Yeah, and give them a reality check with a cost benefit analysis of what perfectionism costs you in time and energy. So if you can't work to anything but your high exacting standards, how much time extra does it cost you to get to that standard at an hourly rate for yourself, and what other costs are involved? I want you to really think about costing out the reason for your perfectionism. I'm just having a look at Emma's comments on Facebook there, overthinking the work, so don't end up doing it at all. Yeah, that's actually what happens when you are experiencing imposter syndrome. Relax your standards is the next thing. What I've just said to you is, I like to do everything really well, but I am happy to accept 80%. 80% is really good. If you think about academia, 80% is a first. Anything over, I think it's 73%, 73 to 100 is a first. Yeah, anything under 73% is still good. It's a 2. So where are you aiming? And I had this conversation with my daughter because she was like, I only just scraped a first by 2 marks. I said, no, you got a first. Doesn't matter where you come in that bit of it. You need to relax your standards and be realistic. So think about that. Relax your standards. Accept that anything over 73, 3/4 done, is good, is actually a first. It's really, really good. So what else you can do is to remember your strengths instead of focusing on the deficits. Well, I didn't do it this well. What did you do? How did you get there? What really great things have you done? Remember your strengths, and finally allow in some room for imperfection. So maybe that's as simple as leaving that really unflattering, shitty photograph of you on social media that a friend tagged you in, instead of asking them to delete it. Just leave it there, because it's the behaviors around these things that are part of imposter syndrome. It doesn't matter if there's a gargoyle photograph of you out there. Like, it doesn't matter to your customers if you are serving them really well, that you serve them to exceptional standards. So I just want you to remember that and actually give yourself a little bit of a break. So if you're the perfectionist, those are my top tips. Number 2, the second of the 5 traits of imposter syndrome, is the superhuman. You might be the superhuman. Yeah. Whilst the perfectionist is always striving to do better, superhumans are wanting to do more and more and more. I have this trait. If you look at me with coaching business and the art bank, and then wanting to do the cafe next door, and then that not happening because of somebody else, that actually did leave me with a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I had to do some work on that. So superhumans think that they can do all the things. I can do this, and then I can do this, and then I can do this, and then I can do this. They tend to be like overworking themselves and having too many ideas. And this is common in creatives, which is why we struggle with imposter syndrome, because you want to do all the things. And actually, what I always say to my clients is, focus on one thing and do it really, really well. Maybe have a couple of side projects, but focus on one thing, do it well, make it earn money for you, and then move to the other things that are on the sidelines whilst managing the thing that's making money. And that's a business lesson that is really important to learn. So what if you are the superhuman? What do you do? So some of the traits is that you may not handle constructive criticism well. You may get really emotional. You may feel stressed when you're not working. You don't know what to do with yourself. You're fidgety. Your hands are moving. This is also a trait, by the way, of neurodiverse conditions like ADHD and ASD, autism, all of these things. These are traits, fidgeting. I have them myself. Yeah. You feel guilty when you're taking breaks or enjoying leisure activities. You feel like you're the superhuman. You should be doing something. And you put a lot of pressure on yourself to perform at your best all the time, even if you're not feeling 100%, which actually then causes self-worth issues, anxiety, and all the things I've already mentioned. So what do you do if you're the superhuman? So overcoming the superhuman imposter syndrome can be quite challenging, but it's possible. So the first step is to recognize that doing well at everything is not a realistic goal. So you can't do all the things really, really well at the same time, which is why we go back to the one thing, focusing on one thing and doing it really, really, really well, and then moving to other projects, having them there in the sidelines, because I know as creatives, you really want more than one thing on the go at any one time. But having them there in the sidelines, but focusing on this one thing and getting it on rails. Yeah. Everybody experiences mistakes and failures, and that's okay. Reframe how you think about your achievements instead of attributing success to external factors. Yeah. Like what other people think of you, or winning an award, or getting in the press. Acknowledge your personal strengths and your hard work by choosing to do something for yourself. So give yourself rewards, and that can boost your confidence and your self-esteem. What else you can do if you're the superhuman is to set realistic, we're going back to realistic goals and expectations, and allow time for self-care and relaxation. Plan it in and actually enjoy it without your phone, without the goals going through your head, without the I must do this is happening, and practice that just once a week at the start. Go book something that takes you out of your business and out of your life for a couple of hours, turn your phone off and go and enjoy it. Now, I do this every fortnight. I go for my lashes and brows done. I switch my phone off. I go and relax and enjoy and chat to Gemma and just have that bit of pampering time. And I don't even think about my business. Do I get messages while I'm there from my business? Yes, I do. all the time. I don't answer them. I don't look at them. Okay. It's really hard doing this because when I've written this, I see so many of these traits in me. So I have to be really careful here because I feel like I'm most of these. And you might feel the same actually. So don't think you're on your own because you're not. The third type of imposter syndrome is the natural genius, and you're in creative genius corner. So there's a hint there. All right. It's characterized by somebody's belief that their success is solely based on their natural talent or their natural intelligence. They should be successful because they are really intelligent or they're a really good artist. Yeah. A hallmark of like the natural genius is that success has always come easily to them without really trying. So this has happened maybe through childhood, maybe through teen years, maybe through university. So as a result, they set themselves impossibly high standards for themselves. Yeah. So when you then get into a competitive environment like the online space, which is like this massive auditorium filled with people all doing similar things to you, you're trying to jump up and down and get noticed. You know you are really clever, or you're really, you're really intelligent, or you're really talented, and there's all these other people. So instantly, when you're in that environment, it's competitive and it can be really overwhelming as you're so focused on this intelligence and talent, and you're forced to challenge yourself to be seen in this world. So the signs that show up for the natural genius in imposter syndrome is success has always come easily in the past for you. So you've been successful in a job or in a career. I've been successful in this in the past, and that's how you speak. I've done this, I've done that, I've been successful, and now you're trying this new thing, and it's hard. Your self-confidence suffers considerably when you are faced with a setback that really bothers you when you're the natural genius. You believe success comes from your inherent ability or talent, yeah, not hard work and not practice and not consistency or repetitive work. It comes from your natural talent. You have very high standards for yourself, and you are critical of perceived obstacles that might stop your success. So those are the traits. So what to do if you are the natural genius? If any of these are resonating with you, or you think, oh my goodness, that's me, let me know. So as a natural genius, it's hard to acknowledge that success is it's not solely based on your talent. So success actually does involve hard work, practice, opportunity, bit of luck, consistency, habits, routines. Yeah, the natural genius is not necessarily tied to doing those things. Yeah. It can be really damaging when you have that misbelief, that disconnect there, because created unrealistic expectation of perfection makes you feel like you're a fraud when you fail. So you know you're intelligent, you know you're good when you fail. So you put this fantastic painting that you've done that you know is really good, you put it out there on social media, and it's crickets. It's tumbleweed. And you expect people to love it and pay the price you want. So that's an example. So what to do if that happens? Yeah, it's about self-reflection. It's not about that you're not good. It's just that you're not in front of the right audience, but you need to work hard on other things. And you need to reframe your negative self-talk, and the self-reflection can help you identify your strengths and weaknesses and that self-talk that talks you down, and get a more realistic view of your abilities. Because here's the thing, the most successful person, feeling validated, Hermione's just saying she's feeling validated. The most successful person can have a really crappy product and not be very clever, but they're really good at marketing. Yeah. And that's hard for the natural genius to watch, because you can see they're not as good as you, or you think they're not as good as you, but they're really good at marketing and they're selling. So you expect your fantastic talent and natural genius just to sell, and you do what you think they're doing, and it doesn't work. But then what they're doing, a lot of it is invisible and behind the scenes, and it's hard work and it's consistency and it's repetitive and it's habits. And they're doing the hard work and the good marketing, and you're just putting your stuff out there and expecting the same. So sometimes calling yourself out as the natural genius and being more self-reflective and self-aware is the starting point for you being able to move forward from that. The fourth type of imposter syndrome is the soloist. Yeah. It's characterized by feelings of independence and the need to achieve success all on your own. Yeah. You believe you must do everything yourself. Your house is not cleaned properly by anybody else. Nobody cleans the toilet like you. Nobody makes the meal like you do. Nobody paints the painting like you do. Nobody creates the product like you do. You believe you must do everything. Okay. You are the chief everything officer, and you own that road. You do it through your life, and you do it in your business. Yeah. You see asking for help or support or delegating tasks or hiring a cleaner, you see that as weakness, not as support. So as a result, you often feel isolated, overwhelmed, undervalued, inadequate. You've got self-doubt. So you're doing all this stuff and nobody recognizes it. You're doing all this stuff and nobody praises me. So the soloist can be a really, really difficult position to be in. It is in imposter syndrome. Yeah. So what are the signs of the soloist? What sort of characteristics would you see? So it be feeling like you need to accomplish everything on your own. You're still working at 11 o'clock at night to make sure everything's done to you, your standards. You feel incompetent if you need help, if you've got to ask for help. And actually, you can be quite huffy if you ask for help and you don't get it immediately. Okay, these are the kind of traits. You struggle to network. So to really openly and honestly network, particularly in the online space. And you have difficulty accepting constructive criticism. So if somebody notices something that's not done and tells you, you can be really quite huffy about that. So what to do if you're the soloist? How can you kind of put things in place to recognize that? You need to look at the root cause of why you need to be so independent. What has caused you to be so independent or need to be so independent? Maybe it's because you've not been parented properly. There's issues in your childhood. There's been issues in a relationship where, somebody's let you down. There's a root cause somewhere of this need to be independent. So therefore, you're going out into the world to do this entirely on your own. Okay. When you've done that, you can begin to build a support network, because recognizing where that comes from, forgiving yourself and forgiving the people that have maybe made you feel like that, and then surrounding yourself with people that understand you, yeah, and want you to achieve and want you to be successful, yeah, can be the start of you learning to help yourself to not be so critical. Learning to delegate, learning to practice self-compassion and celebrate successes. And actually, when you start to ask the people around you for help and to support you, you'd be surprised at how much they're willing to do that and how much they do value you. And you don't need to be so darn independent. And the fifth type of imposter syndrome, and this one annoys me the most, is the expert. Yeah, it's common amongst people who have acquired a really specialist knowledge. They've learned something that's really specialist. They have deep knowledge of it, and they are the expert. Now, there's one thing showing up as the expert in your field, being non-judgmental, accepting everybody in, but the expert wants the rest of the world to do it their way. Okay, so, and such as like doctors or lawyers or scientists, they're very, very focused on their niche. This can also happen with artists. So you have niched down to your particular genre. Maybe you are doing landscapes or seascapes. Let's do seascapes. You're doing them a certain way. You know that you are really good at it. You're the expert. You've done loads of market research. You've done thousands of drawings. You've done loads of tests with color. You've used different paints, and you've honed your area of expertise. So you then think that nobody else is as good as you, and you're very critical. Yeah. And you've done a master's degree, and you've done loads of different trainings, and you are really clever and really good at this particular thing. So because you've invested so much time and effort into your education, your training, your skill, you feel you should know everything about that chosen area. Okay. But you can still doubt your abilities and worry that you're not equipped to handle the challenges that, particularly when you put it out there in the world of social media. So signs that you might be the expert are feeling like you need to master every single step in the process. You need to constantly pursue training and certifications. You're a collector of certificates. You've got the next training and the next training to prove how good you are. You feel like a fraud, despite having all these certificates and the expertise, because there's a mismatch there. There's a disconnect. And you are struggling with procrastination because you feel so overwhelmed. So what do you do if this is you? So a really good way to overcome the expert type of imposter syndrome is to actively seek out opportunities for growth and learning. And I don't mean more in your field of expertise. I mean learning about you. So your mindset, your values, your limiting beliefs, all of the things that are about you. This will help you boost your confidence. So you are probably the person who needs to have a coach and peel back the layers of how great you are as a person. You're not just defined by being the expert at whatever it is you do. Okay, so create a support system. Again, this is all about support system, finding your people, the people who get you, who don't judge you. And particularly find yourself a coach who's an expert in imposter syndrome and do some work. Be vulnerable. Share your struggles and setbacks. Share why you have to be the expert, because uncovering these things helps us to actually get to the root cause of why we got there in the first place. Why did we become this type of imposter syndrome experiencing person? I couldn't think of words there to connect it. And it's okay that I couldn't think of words. It's okay that I look a bit like I've been blown through a wind tunnel this morning. It doesn't matter. There is no perfection. You don't have to know everything. So imposter syndrome is a genuine. Now, I've heard other coaches and other people saying they don't think imposter syndrome is real. Now, that's all very well if you don't suffer from imposter syndrome. It's just like saying I don't think cancer is real, and I don't think mental health is real, and I don't think neurodiversity is real. That's ignorant. It's very real to the people who experience it and who experience all these things. And actually, the only way, sometimes the reason it keeps showing up, so if this keeps showing up for you and you keep having these resistant behaviors or fears, or you're sabotaging your business, or you are feeling overwhelmed, burnt out, it's because you're not dealing with this. If imposter syndrome is showing up for you on a regular basis, it's so important to do some of the things that I've given you tips on today, and to start addressing and acknowledging the fact that it exists, why it exists, which type you are, and picking out the things that will be best for you based on the type. And you might be saying to me, Mandy, I've got all of those things. I do all of those things. There is a connection. There's a red thread running between all of those 5 types of imposter syndrome, because if you're that type of person, you are going to be really intelligent. It's the cleverest and the most talented people, although it can hit everybody in any walk of life, but it's the people, I'm going to strike that out, not the cleverest and most talented. It's the most committed and motivated people, the people who actually do want things to be good and work hard and show this motivation and admirable traits, who do suffer with imposter syndrome. You don't have to be hyper intelligent or hyper talented at something, but if you've worked hard to get to where you are still susceptible to these different types of imposter syndrome. So I hope that's helped you think a little bit today about how you can face this head on and how you can put some things in place. I think if I was going to be generic, I would say accepting and forgiving yourself and accepting where it comes from and surrounding yourself with people who can help and support you properly would be the biggest thing that you can do. But if you want to know more about imposter syndrome and you want to pick my brain, you can't pick my brain because I don't have time for that, but I've got loads of courses that can help you out. Just drop me a line. I will let you know. I'll send you what I think is relevant to you. I've got my free Overcoming Fear Guide, my Fear Money Mindset, my free Money Mindset audio program. I've got several freebies that can help you start thinking. But what I will say is if you do suffer from this, it really is quite a specific thing that you need to work through. So good luck with that. Let me know how you get on. Let me know if this has resonated with you today. Leave me a comment. And have an awesome week. I will see you back to normal on Tuesday at 11 a.m. next week. Have a brilliant week.